Hey, what's up, everybody? Um, it's been a minute, so I need to set up the screen share, and we are already in progress. There we go. So six pick dinger draft. This is I feel like anywhere between 5 and 8 is kind of a death spot. I typically don't draft a lot of dingers this early. Obviously, pitchers and catchers reporting this week, but a lot of things can happen. So the reason, so why am I drafting this early? The reason why I'm drafting a few dinger teams early is simply because if you're following baseball and you're doing a decent amount of drafts right now, you probably feel like you have a little bit of an edge in regards to where you're drafting guys. So I'd say I feel that way too. But I haven't drafted a dinger in probably a week. So I feel like, hey, it's at least worth a shot. And as we go through the draft, I'll kind of explain some of the picks and some of the reasoning to see if I can make it make sense. So anyway, I went Carl Tucker at 6. I don't love Tucker at 6, but at that point, normally he goes at 5, and I end up taking at 6. I probably would have taken Corbin Carroll or Tatis. But I do look at this draft a little different because it's a dinger. Normally I draft a lot of elimination contests. So let's see who we've got. So we're up right now, pick 19. I'm looking at the best 3 outfielders are Acuna, Merrill Langford. Infielders are Freeman, Olsen, Harper. Pitchers, Skeens is still on the board. I'm going to go with Freeman just because looking for a little bit of a bounce back. Not a lot of guys are going to be able to drop 1,500 for you. He dropped 1,800 2 years ago. So he's also super consistent. And I think having a little bit of blend of upside and consistency is helpful. So that's what we're doing. Okay, so we're up again at pick 30. We've got some time here. I'll likely be targeting either an Austin Riley type or an outfielder. So let me. All right, I know it's been a minute. I'm going to try to put this out. I don't know if I can even do this. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to try to put this out on the old school Twitter account. So bear with me. Oh, I'm not seeing it there. There we go. Okay, got it to the old So Rare account. Gosh, I don't even know what that account's called. Let's see. Oh, Best Baller Ace. There you go. And I tend to not use that account too much anymore. So if you haven't seen me tweet, it's because I primarily just use my my own account, which is at Steve_Adler. All right, so we're now in the 3rd round. You can see that Zabs took Ozuna Rooker on the turn. Pretty strong outfield picks right there. A lot of this is so much. This is based on opinion. I'm probably not going to take Skubal there at 30. I do not love taking pitchers early. I try to stack as many hitters as I can, and I really try to stack as many outfielders as I can. Okay, there goes Riley. So my best infielders are going to be Harper, Devers, Turner, likely to pass. And my best outfielders are Woods, Santander, Happ. I think Happ is probably the best of the bunch. I may take Skubal. at 30. Okay, so my options here I'm going to mark Scooble. I'm a little tempted to take Bryce Harper. Gosh, I think I'm going to take Bryce Harper here. I'm going to go upside. So the difference between the way I draft Eliminator and the way I would draft something like Dinger. And if you're not familiar with Eliminator, essentially you're in a pot of 12, and after the second week of the season, the bottom two get dropped and you get moved into a new pod. And then that pod may be 10 teams, it could be 12 teams, it could be 16 teams. And the bottom portion, which is typically about 1 to 2 players, move on each time. So when you're drafting Eliminator, you're really looking for guys who obviously have upside, but guys who are consistent. And because all you need to do is escape elimination like round after round after round until you can get to the point where you can make money. Last year, I did fairly well in the elimination groups, but I didn't really know what I was drafting for. And I mean, last year was mostly luck. And I drafted both groups pretty similar in regards to the standard best ball versus the elimination best ball. Now it's a little different. I still need to draft a lot more outfielders, but when you're in the traditional best ball, you don't have to worry about getting eliminated after a week. So you can really shoot for guys with much more high upside, or much higher upside, I should say. Okay, so on the turn we had Cattell and Reynolds. I don't know if anybody's auto drafting at this point. I do see my boy Zuby at 4, and it looks like I don't think he's auto drafting since he took Austin Riley there. But we'll see who comes back outfield wise. I'm at 43. Normally at that point, I really hope that somebody like Spencer Steer or Brian Reynolds is going to drop in my lap. And that is not going to be the case. So, so we got to figure something out. We've got Nemo, Trout, Butler. I really don't love any of these guys. Looks like Corey Seager is going to drop in there. Zach Wheeler is still on the board at 34, which is tempting, but man, I don't love it. So I'm going to go Seager here. This is going to be the first time I've drafted Seager in an absurd amount. I don't know how many drafts I've had. Let's see. Just for fun, let's take a quick look. 25. I've drafted, this is my 97th. This will be my 97th completed drafts when we're finished up here. And this is the first time I'm taking Corey Seager. So when I started off things, I mentioned basically having that like 5 to 8, maybe 5 to 9 makes things real challenging because you kind of have to overdraft your outfield, and you're passing up quality infielders if you want to stack those outfielders early. Or you can go hard in the infield, get those stud infielders like I did this time, and kind of see how that plays out. Obviously, the concern that I've got with 3 of these 4 guys, I guess all 4 guys, is going to be injuries. Harper was probably the healthiest of all 4 of them last year. So I'm going a ton of upside here. When it comes back, I'm going to try to get my hands on Garcia. Just kidding. Garcia just was taken off the board. So maybe a Rosarena is going to have the opportunity to drop in. Wheeler did go right after. So the other strategy is you start to stack some pitchers here because you can go, I would have been able to go Scooble, Wheeler, and then grabbed one of the studs at 54, whether it probably be like Crochet or Cole or Burns or Reagans. So it just kind of depends on what you want to do. This draft just kind of led me because of upside to chase the infielders. So that's what we're doing. Bop, bop, bop. Okay, so there goes Crochet. Crochet goes early. Let me get back into this board here. All right, so I am targeting outfield. Trout just got picked, so Rosarena and Suzuki are probably going to be in my wheelhouse. There goes Simeon, unfortunately, for me. That's fine. I've got enough infielders now. I probably should just shut the infield down. There goes a Rosarena. If Suzuki gets picked, I'm going to take a pitcher. Okay, so he takes Albies. I'm going to take Suzuki. Give me that second outfielder. When it comes back at 67, I'll grab another outfielder. I'm going to pass up on all the pitchers. So Gilbert, Cole, Burns, Reagans, I'm going to pass up on all those guys. And when it comes back, I'm going to target guys like Doyle, Castellanos, Luis Robert, who's been dropping a bit. It's interesting that Robert and Castellanos were about 10 spots apart previous, like 2 weeks ago. And now Castellanos has actually hopped Robert. So we'll see how that ends up turning out for me. Okay, so Robert goes early. So contrary to what I've just been talking about. So we still have some pitching that could come back to us here. It looks like I'm going to end up taking Cowser. Depends on, I'd say, Dan J and the Mick if they end up going outfield. But I don't think these guys are going to take outfielders prior to that. Interesting. Okay, Yelich. So now Castellanos and Cowser are they're on the table right now. Framber went. Garrett Cole and Burns are still there, and Framber went. So this guy's definitely got a personal preference. I'm really tempted to take one of those guys if they make it to me. As much as I would like to grab an outfielder. No, I'm joking. I'm going to grab an outfielder. If I don't grab an outfielder, oh, okay. So they just went, I'm going to grab Castellanos. Am I going to grab Castellanos? Yeah, I'm going to grab Castellanos. I was just having a hard time. I like Cowser a lot. And I think he's on the upswing, and the changes that the Orioles have made to their ballpark, it should play well for him. But because of how short my outfield is right now, I just don't feel like I could ride that. So that's why I ended up with that big Nick energy. So we'll see how that plays out for us. Looks like Zuby's on the board, does not have a pitcher yet, and still does not. So him and I are pretty much on the same page. We're at 3-3 apiece and no pitching. Hey, what's up? Welcome into the stream. As you do jump in, feel free to say hi in the chat, or I think pound the like button or something. Slam some emojis, whatever people do. All right, so I'm sitting 3-3. I'm not worried about pitching. There's tons of pitching on the back end. It has been slowly rising over the last couple of weeks. So when I say there's tons of pitching on the back end, keep in mind normally I do eliminators. So, but the pitching has been rising in the last week or so. So as I look at where things are going for me right now, it's 78. I'm going to try to target probably guys like, it'd be nice if Cowser was there. Okay, Kelsey's gone. I'm going to look at Cruz and Kwan. Now, I'm going to value Kwan over Cruz. And the main reason, I know we've been talking about upside. There is also the concern that we had a bunch of young guys last year who either didn't perform or took a while to get going. And I'm talking about Jackson Holiday and Jackson Churio. Churio ended up at the end of the year, his numbers look great, but the first half of the season was brutal for him. And Jackson Holiday was a dumpster fire. He didn't even make the team out of camp. And so point being, I get a little anxious about taking young guys at this point. Not that I don't take them at all. I won't be taking one here. Everybody I get queued up is jumping in on me. Okay, so I'm actually going to take CJ Abrams right here. My choices are Vientos, Caminero, and Abrams. And I really do like Vientos. He put up 954 last year. Abrams put up 1236. The way I'm looking at this is, who do I think is more likely to score 1,400 points? Is it going to be Abrams or is it going to be Vientos? And it's going to be Abrams. He's been in the 1,200 block the last 2 years, a little jump with some better lineup protection. He could absolutely get into that 1,400. He didn't run as much as he did in 2023. So if he just takes that up a notch, I feel like he can definitely get there. It's solid value for Abrams. You're not going to find a lot of guys who have floors of 1,200 and ceilings of 1,400 to 1,500 in the seventh round. So I really do like CJ Abrams. I haven't taken him a lot, but the more I dug in, the more it just seemed to make sense for me. So I was not able to get that outfielder. I wanted Cowser or Kwan. I was even willing to take Cruz, and he wasn't there. So at 91, when it comes back, I'm going to be in a tough spot because I don't think Jason Dominguez or Taylor Ward are going to be there either. And the next outfielders are Thomas, Peter Crow Armstrong, George Springer, Tyler O'Neill, and Jorge Soler. And I don't trust any of those guys, which means when it comes back at 91, there goes Jason. If Taylor Ward's not there, I'm likely going pitcher. I'm going to queue up Josh Naylor just in case. I do really like Naylor. But Logan Webb, Imanaga, those are probably going to be the guys in my wheelhouse. So there goes Casas. There goes Taylor Ward, unfortunately. I'm going to end up going Webb over Naylor. And I wouldn't normally do that, but I already have 4 infielders. So it's not a huge deal for me. And it's not just that I have 4 infielders. I have 4 studs. Freeman, Harper, Seager, Abrams. So I can live with that Naylor. DJ, what's up, man? Great to see you. You know what? I feel like Abrams, the comment is about CJ Abrams. Love to pair him with Luis Garcia late. I normally keep these windows open. I'm going to look at Garcia right now. So Fangraphs has Garcia hitting 6th. Where they have him projected. And they've got him projected at 17 and 15. I mean, those are really solid numbers. I don't normally draft any nationals that aren't CJ Abrams. And it's not like I have anything against the team. It's just that I typically don't draft a lot of guys on teams that I feel can't score. So, man, maybe I'll be wrong. I have drafted, you know what, let me correct that. I have drafted low a few times. But for the most part, I feel like like Cruz and Wood get overdrafted. I think I've taken Josh Bell potentially a time or two, just because the reunion with the Nats, and he did have an amazing first half there a couple years back. So there's that. But I just haven't really dove into Luis Garcia too much. I'm doing it right now though. I'm on the Baseball Savant website. I'm going to look at some things on Garcia. He's only 24, which is great. Decent slug. Yeah, I mean he's filling it up. His numbers are definitely solid. I feel like I get into a pattern. I'm glad you said that, TJ, because I get into a pattern after doing all these drafts that you kind of start picking the same guys. So it's obviously good to have a little bit of variety. But and last year he dropped 1,054. How many games did he start? In 140 games. So, that's pretty solid. That's a pretty solid floor for Garcia. If he hits 6 and that lineup actually hits, then it's really attractive. Okay, so it's coming up. I'm at 102. I'm going to queue up Freddie and Hunter. Is Bregman still there? Okay, I'm going to take Bregman. I'm sure there's no outfielders I have any interest in. There's not. I would take Hunter here. I'm just going to take Bregman and get it over with. Bregman still has not signed. So where Bregman plays is going to have a huge impact on how he produces. It's always interesting. Like Profar has went from like late 90s into the 70s. But he's still the same guy. I think he's in a good situation in Atlanta, but I don't trust Profar. So that's just me. But when you look at a guy like Pete Alonso, Pete plays in one of the hardest parks to hit for power in the league. And he was getting drafted like on the back end of round 4. And all of a sudden he re-signs with the Mets, and now he's getting drafted on the front end of 4 and the back end of 3. And that just doesn't make any sense to me. I guess people just really appreciate the stability of knowing where a guy's going. But I feel like Pete could have put up much better numbers if he was anywhere else. Not anywhere. I mean, if he was in Detroit or in Petco, maybe in San Francisco, I'd expect similar numbers to what he does in New York. But going back to New York, if anything, I would have thought that dropped him. But so I have not taken any Pete Alonso since the trade or since the signing. Bregman is totally different though, because Bregman relies so much on the Crawford boxes, and his swing really is conducive to that ballpark. But it sounds like the Astros moved on. I hope he goes to Boston just from because I like Bregman, and I think he would hit really well. He just pepper that green monster all the time, and all of a sudden he's got 55 doubles. But going to Detroit, I think, is going to be really hard for him. Going to Chicago could be challenging, but we'll see how this plays out. The Boston thing is weird because you're going to have Bregman play second base, and they have too many outfielders. If they sign Bregman, I would hope they would call the Padres and try to figure something out to get rid of all those outfielders. Okay, it's my pick. I'm totally unready for it. Where are we at? 115. Probably need a pitcher. I do like Max here. Oh, Tovar's still on the board. Oh my gosh, and I have 5 infielders. I do not need Tovar. But I'm definitely taking Tovar. Okay, this is not what I normally do. So now I'm at 6, and I have 6 stud infielders, which means I'm not going to touch my infield the rest of the way. And I'm going to miss out on all this amazing value that's going to come back. But from here on out, it's going to be pitchers and outfielders, and probably a lot of outfielders. Definitely 7, maybe even 8 infielders, or outfielders, I should say, because my outfield is sketch. Tucker's great. I love Tuck. Suzuki is solid. Castellanos is boring. But after this, I'm going to be looking at guys like Kerry Carpenter, J.J. Bleday, Evan Carter, Friedel from Cincinnati, Donovan. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Normally, you get so much value at the end of the draft, or like I should say the back half of the draft with infielders. So I don't normally stack like this. Keep in mind, I was going to take Max Fried right there at 115. He's still on the board. Average draft position's 110. He's still on the board at 119. Hey DJ, are you still with me? Looks like we got two people in here. So if whoever just jumped in, welcome in, and make sure you, I think, hit that thumbs up button. So DJ, let me ask you this. What is your strategy, or do you have a strategy when it comes to outfielders? So outfield can be tough after the first half. Absolutely. I feel like after Taylor Ward, who's normally like in between picks 90 and 95, after Taylor Ward, it's like, good luck. It gets really gnarly at that point. And you're fishing. So a lot of times I'll pick 5 outfielders in my first 7 picks because I feel like I'm able to find a lot of value for infielders later, and I don't have any trouble finding pitching. Like for me right now, Bailey Ober and Bryce Miller are really close. So I'd say I have a decent. Oh, well, I'm going to get one of those guys. I'm going to get Bryce. So that's cool. So Bryce is solid, not sexy, but solid. And when it comes to a pitching staff, I really just need guys who are going to, I'll get lucky when they throw twice in a week. But I just need guys who are going to go out and throw quality starts up and try to grab me 20, 30 points. So it gives me a firm floor every week. And then when guys roll in those 2 starts, that's when I'll have a nice little bounce. But I really try to focus on hitting. So from here on out, on outfielders, a lot of it's going to be upside. So I'm going to pick at 139. I don't expect to be lucky enough to get Kerry Carpenter here. And I just don't love Lourdes Gurriel or Jung-Hoo Lee or Matt Wallner. I do really like Cedric Mullins. I am concerned that he can stay healthy, but I think Mullins is a baller. I don't trust Nolan Jones after last year. I think most of us have PTSD when it comes to Nolan Jones. I really do like Evan Carter still. He should be the starting center fielder. Hopefully those back issues are behind him. Okay, there goes Kerry Carpenter. And then, Parker Meadows is kind of a mixed bag. Giancarlo Stanton. Josh Lowe, I think, would be fantastic if he didn't play in Tampa Bay. Josh Peterson, and then TJ Friedel. I love Friedel. So I'm gonna queue up Cedric here, but I might be going a pitcher like Justin Steele. The 3 top pitchers right now are Alcantara, McClanahan, and Steele. And I really do like McClanahan, but I don't trust him. The thing is with McClanahan, like this is exactly the guy that you are playing for right now, or you're drafting for right now, because at the end of the day, if McClanahan shows up to spring and he's dealing and he's sitting 97 and topping at 99 or 100 and he looks great in spring, all of a sudden you're going to see McClanahan go from like round 12 to round 7 and 8. People get all hyped up in the spring. So, but if he just shows he's healthy, and it's similar with Alcantara. I mean, Alcantara. My gosh, it's been so long. He's been hurt too long. I forgot how to say his name. Those guys, when they show a little bit of something, they're going to bounce. Jump shoot. What's up, man? Good to see you. So let me see what DJ said here. Did draft Seattle pitching staff one time, guaranteed a 2-star. The thing is, that Seattle staff is great, and they're great for best ball. I mean, especially if you're playing eliminator, because they're so stable. When you look at Gilbert and Kirby and Miller, I'm a little worried about Castillo, just because of the way he ended the season last year. But that staff is so good and so consistent. They know how to throw in that ballpark. I find myself, I feel like Gilbert gets a little overdrafted sometimes because, he's going ahead of guys like Reagans and Cole and Burns, but he really balled out last year. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Seeing some nice value here. Volpe at 142, Jackson at 143. Jumpshoot says Castillo never goes past 5.2 innings. Got to get those quality starts on Underdog for sure. It's just free points hanging out. Okay, McClanahan is still on the board. I will take him if he's still there at 150. Evan Carter just got snatched. My next outfield target is actually TJ Friedel, and he doesn't normally get taken until 169. So I'm going to target pitcher with this pick. Love Jared Jones. Okay, there goes McClanahan. I love Jared Jones. I've got Lopez, Jones, Gill, Flaherty are the next round of guys. I really like Flaherty in Detroit. That could be an option. I think Ronaldo's solid, but just not spectacular. Luis Gill's very, very solid. I've been taking him a pretty decent amount at a solid clip lately. So I'm going to go Jones, Flaherty, Gill. That's how I'm going to order these guys. So I'll grab one of them right here. Hey, Jumpshoot, excuse me. Are you excited about the Orioles this year, and how are things looking at the ballpark? Have they been posting a lot of? I'm assuming they did like Fan Fest or something. I don't know if they do it at the ballpark in Baltimore, but how are those fences looking? Did they bring them in and down, or just bring them down in left field? All right, I'm gonna take Jared Jones right here. That's he normally goes 151. I took him 150. So I'm going to be targeting TJ Friedel with my next pick. I don't know if he's going to make it though. Mason Wynn is getting a lot of run here, and I don't know. I know I haven't selected him one time. I feel like he's a good ball player, but unless you're expecting him to take that next step, I feel like you're taking him too early. But I'm not. I can be wrong. I'm not a huge win guy. Excuse me. That's what I get for eating before I jumped on. I was not expecting this the dinger to fill so quick. I had literally just wrapped up one. It came in and down. So that's going to be great for the right-hander. So, like, I've been taking a ton of Kowser and a ton of Westy. So I was able to take a lot more Westy. Probably, like, in the last week, it's been getting hard. People have been drafting him a lot sooner. But I've been really stacking up on Kowser and Westy before that, and Adley. Yeah, so Jumpshoot's breaking down the Orioles for me. He says they spent money, but hasn't made up for the loss of Burns, in his opinion. Like Tyler O'Neill, but the guy's an injury risk. Yeah, 100%. He's an injury risk. Why did somebody take Lars Nootbaar? And the same guy took Donovan. Okay. I'm just getting on my nerves. Overdrafting. And TJ Friedel just went, oof. Okay, so this puts me in a tough spot because I would have normally taken Donovan. I would have taken Friedel and then Donovan. So I'm going to do something I normally do not do. Okay, you know what? I'm actually going to punt the pick. I'm going to take Mackenzie Gore here. I was going to take Byron Buxton, but I just couldn't get myself to do it. So I'm going to take Mackenzie Gore. So that's going to put me at 4-6-4. Still going to go 3 outfielders and three pitchers here. That's my plan. Next pick 174. So if Buxton's there, I'll take Buxton. But like I said, the plan was to take Donovan. Okay. Yeah, I think I completely agree with you, Jump, on the loss of Burns. I really thought that the Padres and the Orioles matched up really well for a Cease trade, but it looks like Preller's just out of his mind right now and what he wants. He's just kind of out there. I know he's asking for like 2 young studs and a stud pitcher, and it doesn't make any sense for 1 year Cease. But I do think that they still match up for a trade really well. So there's talk about the Padres signing Pivetta now, which doesn't make a ton of sense given their salary restrictions. But if they sign Pivetta, they'll likely trade Cease somewhere. So I would look at the Orioles again, the Mets, potentially even the Cubs for a Cease partner. But I think Cease is a guy who would play really well there. I don't know about Uncle Charlie, but I've been drafting him a decent amount in the last round or two because I feel like he's a guy who can give me 150 innings and 160 strikeouts. They didn't fill in the move with seats, so there might be more changes in the future. Interesting. Okay. I think the Sox are going to be interesting for sure. I still think the Jays are soft. I think their manager Snyder is not good. He's just not. It's very rare that pitching coaches are ever good managers, and he is just proving that to be true. So I thought they would get rid of him last year, and they didn't. But I mean, he's not the guy at the end of the day. And if he's not the guy, then you got to move on. Oh man, Mitch Keller's going to be sitting there staring at me. Okay, so Byron Buxton is still there. Abreu from Boston still there. Conforto with the Dodgers is still there. I got to be honest with you. I really like Abreu, but I do not trust him because Boston has too many outfield bats, and it looks like they're going to do a decent amount of platooning. Buxton is still there. Okay, Keller went. I do like Taj Bradley. Barrios is a great innings eater. You know, he's had 149 innings or more every single year the last 4 seasons. So just from a best ball standpoint, it's nice to have that consistency. Okay, there goes Abreu. So I'm going to do something I don't normally do. And for the first time this year, I am taking Byron Buxton. I love Buxton. He just gets hurt too much. And Jump, like you're talking about with Tyler O'Neill, that guy's got massive power. It's just he gets hurt all the time. So I don't know. I feel like that's an interesting move for the Orioles not to just bring Santander back because everybody loves Santander and he really hit well in that ballpark. As a switch hitter, now you move the fence and you got Santander there. Like, that's a little bit of a bummer. But and he was there the whole time. So it's unfortunate that they would pay O'Neill and not pay Santander. But anyway, they also paid Morton. Not that they paid him a ton, but they definitely could have paid Burns. I'm a little disappointed about that. I think Burns will be solid in Arizona, but it would have been nice if he would have stayed in the East. Okay, what am I looking at here? My outfield is shambles. I'm ready to light this team on fire. let's see. We're coming up on 187. Who do I want at 187? Let's see. My outfield options are Varsho, Walker, Burleson. Pass on all those guys. My pitching options look like they're going to be Barrios or Bassett. So I don't love these options, but that's kind of what I'm up against. Excited to see Felix come back. What am I missing? Felix. Jump, help me here. So O'Neill got a 3-year deal, huh? I would definitely not sign him for 3 years. But that's just me. All right, Barrios it is. Let's see who I can overdraft here at 200. I'll probably take Jake McCarthy if he's available. I'm really like scratching the bottom of the barrel with these outfielders, like McCarthy, De La Cruz. I really like Garrett Mitchell, Adele, and then we'll get real boring, like oatmeal, like you're saying, Jump, with guys like Benintendi and Verdugo. What do I have here? 5. So let me pin another. Did Tanner get taken? I was getting Tanner Hawk at like 200 just a couple days ago. I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden he's going like 15 to 20 spots higher now. Okay, so let me pin a couple guys. Evaldi. I do like Lodolo. I don't like him in Eliminator, but I like him in the regular season. I think he could just be an absolute stud if he can stay healthy. Tons of high upside with him. I love Pat Buick. I like Bueller, but I just worry that he might need more time, especially after that second TJ. I'm actually going to plan on taking Evaldi. So we'll see how that goes down. Okay. Batista. Sorry. The funny thing is, when it comes to best ball, we just don't draft relief pitchers. So, and most of the time, we don't draft a lot of catchers. So, it's like out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. You just don't think about it. I would like Parker Meadows a lot more if he didn't play in Detroit. That ballpark is just eats people up. Like I really like Riley Green. I feel like if he played somewhere else, he could really be a stud. But it's a tough ballpark to hit in. Okay, so there goes Bueller. I'm still on a McCarthy here. Fangraphs absolutely loves McCarthy. Oh, I can't say I love him as much as they do. In fact, you know what? I'm probably going to pass on McCarthy and probably take Evaldi here. Because my pitching is very, what's the word I'm looking for? Basic. My pitching is very basic. So let me pump it up a little bit. Oh, Jesus Sanchez at 197. That's a nice pick. Okay, I'll take Evaldi here. Focus on those two outfielders and another pitcher here at the end. And I'll likely go I'll likely end up rolling with like Verdugo in the 20th. You don't see him get taken very often, but prior to last season with the Yankees, he's a guy who consistently dropped 1,100 points. And if you can get that from your 7th outfielder, especially when you have some injury concerns, I think that's worth it. I guess. So Jump is saying, hey, McCarthy, platoon guy. I guess that Fangraphs thinks he's going to have that job. So let's see what my boy Martinez has put down for their platoon situation. Yeah, so it looks like they're going to have him start and hit 5th in center field. So I don't know if that means he's kind of gotten past um, the platoon stage of his career, but um, the guy was decent last year. I know everybody was waiting for Alec Thomas to kind of take that step, and he just didn't. Look like McCarthy was a guy, but he also Jake McCarthy is one of the fastest players in baseball, so um, I think that they're kind of anticipating like, hey, this guy could actually drop like 50 to 60 stolen bases. But they do love him. So I have been taking him a little bit. And he's still there he goes. And he's gone. I do like Garrett Mitchell. Roster Resource has Mitchell in the middle of that lineup, which is very attractive. Milwaukee finally learned how to hit, so look at Giloff down at 210. That's good value. Wilson Contreras got picked 10 picks early. Part of the problem with my draft is because I went so heavy infield that I just basically ignored it the rest of the time. And then it's just like survivor mode trying to scramble and grab random outfielders and some supplemental pitching. Where are we at here? Okay, so I still need one outfielder, and I need so I'll target a pitcher with my next pick, and then I'll target Verdugo. So Pivetta is a guy I like to pick. We'll see if he's still there. I need to get the skinny on a couple of these Guardians guys. My buddy, so I moved from last season. I moved I'm still in Arizona. I moved from Scottsdale over to Goodyear, about 45 minutes west. And I'm in walking distance to the Guardians and Reds training facility. Luckily, because of my old contacts, I have a buddy who actually coaches for the Guardians. So he wants to do a podcast. I'm like, all right, we'll do a podcast. We're going to do a podcast. So keep an eye out. There may be something that pops up here. His name is Daniel Robertson. He played in the league for like 4 or 5 years. Drafted by the Padres, came up with the Rangers, played for Mariners, the Angels, and the Guardians. And I feel like I'm missing a team. But super good guy. And he's part of the AAA coaching staff. But I'm really curious to ask him about some of these Guardians guys. And across the street, because I moved in with my girlfriend finally. And so we bought this house in Goodyear. And there's a couple guys who, minor leaguers, who bought the house across the street. So young guys, really, really polite, courteous guys. So we'll see. One was a first rounder. One was I think it was an 8th rounder. But nice guys. So once that podcast gets going, who knows? Who knows who's going to show up? We might have an in with a bunch of Guardians interviews. Not that I'm going to have like Jose Ramirez like hanging out on my couch, but we could have some guys. I'll have to look at that lineup. I think it'd be really interesting to talk to Steve Kwan. And some of the pitching, maybe even have a pitching coach over would be pretty cool. So anyway, stay tuned. Oh, Bo Naylor could be interesting. I really like Josh. So it'd have been great if they were both on the team and I could be like, hey, D-Rob, grab both of them. And, we'll do it with both those guys. But, coming up as the younger brother and, what does he think was different being in the league where your brothers kind of set the path for you? And how is spring training different this year without having Big Bro there? So if we do get those opportunities, it'll definitely it'll be fun. It'll be interesting. But stay tuned. We'll see. I know D-Rob's supposed to swing by today, and we're going to walk through some details. But I have not, full disclosure, I have not hosted a radio show or done a podcast in a very long time. So what I'm basically telling you is it's going to be terrible. But, by the time it gets good, spring training will be done, and my co-host will be in Ohio. But we'll see how it goes. We'll try to make it fun and interesting. D-Rob's played with a lot of guys, so we might be able to have some guys drop by occasionally. So we'll see how it plays out. And I've got a buddy that I know from way back when who's actually the manager or director of the Goodyear ballpark. So it might be kind of cool to chat with him. He's been overseeing the ballpark for, I think almost a decade now. So he's seen some things for sure. Okay, Verdugo, that's my last pick. This team is terrible, by the way. Let's look at this pitching. I've got Logan Webb, Bryce Miller, Jared Jones, Gore, Barrios, Evaldi, Pavetta. So there's definitely some upside. Little stability with Webb and Miller. My infield is absolutely amazing. All-world infield, Freeman, Harper, Seager, Abrams, Bregman. I've got Tovar in there. Got to love that rocky swing. And then my outfield, it goes off a cliff really quick. So I've got Kyle Tucker, Suzuki, Castellanos, and then it's just pray for the best. Mullins, Buxton, Garrett Mitchell, and Alex Verdugo. And that's how this squad's gonna wrap up. So so I'm actually going to let me stay with me for just a minute. I'm gonna jump into an eliminator. And if I can get in quick, we'll keep rolling. But if we're 3 people away, so we can actually keep rolling. We'll see how quick these fill up. Now, I don't expect all of you guys to hang out the whole time. So we're going to go from a $10 dinger to a $5 eliminator. And for those of you who are in my Discord, I did post earlier today I have a kind of a cheat sheet spreadsheet for MLB Best Ball that I post for Underdog and for DraftKings. DraftKings has not launched their – I'm going to take these off. DraftKings has not launched their best ball contest for MLB yet. So for the most part, it's just Underdog right now. But it gives us a really good idea of and I can post it on Twitter for those who are interested. I used to post it last year. But it just gives you an idea in terms of like how full the contests are. And I try to post it on a somewhat consistent basis so you can see where the growth is for it. Full disclosure, though, I had not updated it in a week. But the little eliminator, which is a $5 contest, or $5 buy-in, max 150 entries, is already at 62.4%. So the likelihood that they fill that in the next week, probably about a week and a half for it to fill. So right about the time when like everyone has reported to camp. What's it, a week and a half? Yeah. No. So everybody will be in camp. Should be by the end of this week or early next week. And games start on, I believe, the 21st. So right around that time, the little eliminator is likely to fill if it hasn't filled a couple days before then. Everything else is Dinger's moving well. Everything else is at a snail's pace. Nobody wants to be the first one to dance at the party. So the solo shot is only 7.1% filled. Frozen rope is only 8.9, and the $50 eliminator is only 13.4. So, so Jump mentioned in the Japan series to start. I don't know. I do remember last year the Korean series didn't count for best ball. I don't know if that's going to be the case this time because they basically started the Korean series while spring training was still going. So the Padres and Dodgers did not count. It'll be interesting to see if I just haven't looked, honestly. But it'll be interesting to see if that plays out for best ball with Chicago and the Dodgers. Probably not going to have a huge impact. I remember when they did that last year, it didn't impact the amount of games that teams played on the front end of the season. It was like the midpoint of the season that the Padres started getting like a day off more frequently. Like they had all of a sudden a 5-game week and then a 6-game week, and they did the same thing with the Dodgers. So they spread it out a little bit later in the year versus those teams just not being able to jump in. So I really thought they did a good job with the way they spread that out for the teams. But it'll be interesting. I mean, I think from a pitching standpoint, you have to look at that because I know they're already going to throw Imanaga. So are the Dodgers going to throw Yamamoto? Are they going to throw Roki? Is Roki already going to blow his arm out by then? Is Ohtani going to be able to? No, they said Ohtani's not going to pitch in Japan. So yeah, Roku Sasaki. I don't have very high expectations for him, but what did I say? I just make names up as I'm going. But that whole issue with Sasaki. My gosh, why am I losing it now? Let me look. Now I got to see it. Roki. Oh, did I say Roku? Like a Roku, like a switch? Roku Sasaki. Yeah, so that whole situation was really interesting because for the last 2 years as Padre fans, we thought that he was coming. For 2 years, we thought he was coming. We had all planned on it. And he's a huge Yu Darvish fan. The guy would always post pictures in Padres gear. So we thought it was done. And then obviously our owner, Peter Seidler, passed away, and that made things a little challenging because the team ownership's kind of been in limbo. At least I should say team control has been in limbo since then. And we didn't know exactly what was going to happen. And then Peter's widow decided she was going to go scorched earth in the middle of these Roki negotiations. And it fell apart. And that was obviously going to be a huge signing for the Padres, who are dealing with some payroll constraints right now. And we literally have a guy on the team named Hideo Nomo, who, if you're old enough to remember, Hideo Nomo was an excellent pitcher in the league. Hideo's job is to help recruit Japanese ball players. That is his job. And the Padres, in case you haven't noticed, whiff on almost all the good Japanese ball players, even though we have Hideo Nomo on payroll, and they gave an absurd extension to Yu Darvish with the thought process that you would recruit Roki and other players. But I mean, he told Suzuki to sign with the Cubs. And you're just kind of shaking your head like, what is going? He is the worst recruiter ever. So we all thought we were getting him, and that was going to kind of alleviate some things, and then we could trade Cease, and it wouldn't hurt so bad. No, it didn't happen. So then when he signs with the Dodgers, obviously just to add insult to injury, salt in the wound, death by 1,000 cuts. It was fitting because the Dodgers are obviously signing everybody right now. And I joked like, okay, well, good for you. You're the third best Japanese pitcher on your team. But word came out a week later that Roki, it was suggested to him 2 years prior to get Tommy John surgery. And if we know one thing about the Dodgers is the Dodgers will absolutely maximize velocity, and they don't seem to really care too much about guys getting hurt. And we have seen it over and over and over again. Walker Buehler, 2 Tommy Johns, Dustin May, 2 Tommy Johns. Like Bobby Miller's got elbow and shoulder issues. And Yamamoto got hurt last year, mid-season. So when I think about a guy like Roki, and he already is in a position to have some. He's probably got a partial tear already. You just kind of think, oh, okay, how long is that going to last with the Dodgers? And we'll see how the 6-man rotation works. I don't think they're going to be in a 6-man rotation for long, simply because of the fact that they have so many injury-prone pitchers, whether it's Yamamoto or Glasnow or Snell or potentially Roki. So it'll be really interesting to see how that 6-man rotation goes, especially when you consider most of those Dodger pitchers are not guys who throw deep. So if you have a 6-man rotation, you have one less arm in the bullpen, and you have a bunch of guys like Snell who will throw 110 pitches in 4.5 innings. They're going to use that bullpen a lot. And they don't have like a rubber guy, so to speak. I don't know if Sasaki ends up being that guy because there's just too many chefs in the kitchen. But they're going to need to they're going to need to get kind of a long relief guy, because otherwise they're going to burn their bullpen out super quick. Granted, their offense looks fantastic. So, what are you going to do? But yeah, anyway, that's kind of how things played out on our end for Sasaki, and it was pretty frustrating. So obviously it's frustrating because you want your team to win, but it's also super frustrating because he's going to the Dodgers, and the Dodgers are clearly just exploiting the ability to defer money, which obviously any team can do, but it's just really unfortunate. Hey, John, good to see you, man. Hope all's well. Send me a message if you're coming out for spring training. I'm sure you probably are. I live right now. I literally am walking distance to the Goodyear ballpark. So if you're coming out for spring training, drop me a line so we can get together. Of course you are. Let me know when you're coming out, and we can plan some time to get a drink, have a dog. Oh my gosh, you're here opening weekend. Okay, everybody's coming opening weekend. If you want to go to the Reds Guardians game on Saturday, let me know. I should have extra tickets. So as I said, you might have missed it. I've got a friend who's the director of ballpark ops, so he's going to give me tickets. He's like, hey, bring some friends. I said, okay, I'll make some friends, and all my friends are online, so we'll see who's willing to fly into town. Joking, but seriously though, if you want to come to the game, just let me know. I'll add you to the list. Anybody you think could be a Rooker Duran this season? Man, those guys. That's always the gem, right? That's always what you're looking at. Let me look. Not going to Camelback. Okay. Yeah, John, just let me know how many tickets you want. I'll add you to the list. Who do I think could make that jump? Can I say Spencer Steer? Does that count? Is he already like too close? I think Kauser is probably that guy. I think he's got a ton of upside. They changed the fences out there. AL East has a pretty decent amount of hitter-friendly ballparks. If I'm looking at this going, okay, who can score 1,600 points that you're drafting past like round 5? I think Kauser is definitely going to be at the top of that list. I like Spencer Steer, but I don't know if it's that great of a deal because he's like the front end of 4 most of the time. But I do like Steer. I think it'll be interesting with the Reds this year with Francona. Francona kind of has that Urban Meyer deal where if things aren't going well, this is terrible for me to say this. And so hopefully, but forgive me, I'm just calling a spade. When Urban Meyer is in a place and things start to get hot, he bounces. And I feel like Francona, people love Tito, So he gets a lot of latitude, but he wasn't good in Boston anymore. And he got sick and left and then went to Cleveland, did a decent job at Cleveland. And then Cleveland went, vroom, and he got sick. And all of a sudden, he's better. And now he's going to coach the Reds. And we saw what Cleveland did last year. So I do think Francona is a good coach. I think he's a good baseball manager. I just think he really has a hard time losing and being looked at like a losing manager. So it's kind of his out. I'm sure that if I tried to have that conversation with T-Rob, he would absolutely rip me to shreds because he's probably a Francona guy, just being with the Guardians. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I think he's going to do really good things with the Reds. It's a very winnable division. It's a very easy division to compete in. Obviously, the Cubs are a little better. I think the Brewers are pretty solid, especially if they can get Brandon back. And they can make sure nobody blows their arm out. They're going to have Ashby for a full season. I really like Ashby. That kid's got a ton of upside. I'm looking for somebody. I was thinking about Peralta. It's Woodruff, right? Woodruff. Show me. Yeah, Brandon Woodruff. Okay. I really want to like Parker Meadows, but I just can't get into it. I just can't. It's like a movie that you feel like you should like, but you're watching it and going, this isn't, something's missing. I feel like that's Parker Meadows for me. Edwards, are we talking about Xavier Edwards? Xavier Edwards is really interesting. I don't know why. Obviously, I've been doing too many drafts, but I had a dream about Xavier Edwards last night. And I can't tell you why or how or what happened. I just woke up and was like, I have not drafted enough Xavier Edwards for some reason, to the point that I'm thinking about it subconsciously. But he could be interesting. I mean, he was a top prospect with the Padres. He got traded over to the Rays. They couldn't really put him to good use. He's going to get every opportunity with the Marlins. Man. So what are we looking at here? Great OBP, could steal 50 to 60 bases. The problem is his contact. The plate discipline is awesome. The problem is his ability to make contact. I shouldn't say make contact. Drive the ball. That really looks like it's the challenge that he's got to work through right now. And you look at his spray chart, he only had one home run last year. So is he going to be like, gosh, what's the comp I'm trying to think of here? We're a guy who's going to hit 5 home runs, but hell, 400 OBPs, that's exceptional. But you're looking a lot going, okay, how many doubles is he going to hit if he's only going to hit 5 home runs? Because you can only single me to death so much. So Edwards had 18 extra base hits last year in essentially half a season. 36 extra base hits is really concerning. Now, I mean, we can talk about the 33 walks, and, if you project that out, I feel like he's getting drafted right around where he should. I feel much more comfortable when it comes to best ball taking a guy like Gelof. Gelof. And I know that people are really pumped up about Rooker and why is his name escaping me? Lawrence Butler. Because Lawrence was really rough in the first half, and then the second half he just got real streaky. And everybody got pretty fired up about Lawrence Butler to the point he's going to the 4th round right now. I do not have a ton of Lawrence Butler exposure. And it's because I feel like it's a trap. And not to say that he can't produce, just that if I'm passing up on a guy like Garcia or a Rosarena, if Butler does hit, is he going to be that much better? Because his floor is considerably lower than those guys. Like when I look at the guys that Butler gets drafted around, and it's Nemo, Garcia, Arozarena, Trout, Suzuki, I just don't see. He doesn't strike me as a 1,500 or 1,600 point guy, but he definitely strikes me as a guy who could flame out, and all of a sudden he's at 800 or 900 points. And when I look at a Rosarena or Garcia, they strike me as 1,200 to 1,400 kind of guys. I don't love a Rosarena in Seattle. It's really hard to hit there, especially as a right-handed hitter. But I feel like Butler is a sexy pick. It's just too early for me. I feel like Butler should be closer to like Castellanos, but I'm taking Cowser over Butler if I have an opportunity. I think at the end of the day, it's there. Jump shoot, I agree with you. I think JJ Bleday, I love the guy last year. When he came over from the Marlins, I liked him when he was on the Marlins. And when he came over from the Marlins, I was like, this kid could be good if he plays every day. And he wasn't playing every day. And they were trying to get Ruiz going, and Ruiz just couldn't get going. And then all of a sudden, Bleday was playing center field, which wasn't great. But at the end of the day, his numbers really are solid. But here's the point I was trying to make. Let me kind of loop back around on this whole thing. They're going to play in Sacramento versus Oakland, and that is going to give them a tiny bit of an advantage, and to the point where, I think the big thing in Oakland is, one, it's a big ballpark, but two, there's all that foul territory. So ideally, guys are just going to hit better because they're not in Oakland, and I feel like that's fair. But you got to give that same bump to everybody. So, Jim, when we talk about Bleday, I feel like Bleday and Giloff aren't getting that same jump that Butler and Rooker are getting. I think Rooker had a career year. I don't know that he can repeat. He's definitely getting drafted as if he's repeating. So I've taken him a few times, but I haven't taken him a ton just because, Rooker could get you. I feel like his floor is going to be around 1,200 points, but in the second or third round, you really want a guy who's going to get it. So anyway, I just, point being, I think if you take Rooker in the third, especially in the middle of the third, I feel like it's solid. If you're taking Butler in the fourth or in the early fifth, you're just going full upside, and ideally you're not taking him in front of Garcia and Rosarena. But then guys like Bleday, I feel like Bleday's underrated, and I feel like Giloff is underrated. They're not getting the benefit of the doubt. So to that new ballpark, it's going to give them extra pitches to see. They're going to get rewarded more for hard balls hit in regards to home runs. But I don't think we're going to see Rooker go from whatever he hit last year, 38 to 47 home runs. You might see him go from like 38 to 40. But we should definitely see higher average, higher OBP for the Oakland hitters overall. And I think that and the Baltimore conversation are really interesting to have, because the right-handed hitters in Baltimore are definitely not getting valued like they should. And part of that might be what happened to Toronto last year. They changed the dimensions in Toronto, and it backfired. They didn't take into account Vlad and Bo in terms of their, like, where balls land and their launch angles, and it backfired for them. Now, granted, Vlad had a good year, but I think they did that 2 years ago. But we were expecting much larger numbers, and they just weren't there. But I think we'll see better right-handed numbers from Westy and Cowser and Adley and Mullins this year in Baltimore, and I think that's going to really create a vibe. Not that the Orioles need a vibe, like, they're awesome. It's a really good time to be an Orioles fan. But, gosh, I really wish they had a stud pitcher on that team. And maybe Rodriguez is going to be that guy. You take Yelich over Rosarena. I never draft Yelich. ever. So I just as much as I like Christian, at the end of the day, I mean, unless I'm taking him at 150 like I'm taking Buxton, I just can't touch him on best ball. I know you guys are playing so rare and stuff, and Yelich he's a stud. When he's healthy, he's an absolute stud. But I just can't. I can't use that. I'm not going to take him over Castellanos and Cowser, and I'm not going to take him over Quan, just because I feel like Quan's going to get me 1,200 points. There's a real possibility he'll give me 600, and then I'm an outfielder short going into the playoffs. I can't do that. So guys like Trout, guys like Yelich, I have a hard time swallowing those. Guys like James Wood are really interesting. Because he's getting drafted in the third. DJ Yelich is always healthy until he's not. That's the problem. It's like he doesn't have enough calcium in his bones or something. I don't know what it is. Maybe he's pigeon-toed. I don't know what it is. James Wood going in the middle to the end of the third sounds crazy to me. And I like Wood. I think Wood's a solid ball player, but that just seems like you are projecting him at 1,500, 1,600 points. And not to say he can't do that, but you're drafting him ahead of guys like Santander and Ian Happ and Brian Reynolds, and that's pretty ballsy. But he's getting taken in there. I think he's getting overdrafted. I think Merrill's getting overdrafted. And I love Merrill. Obviously, I'm a Padre fan. I think Merrill's great. He's my favorite guy on the team. But he's going at the end of the second, early third. And that just seems like I think Merrill's definitely a solid 1,200, 1,300 guy. But I can't buy into him that early. So, yeah, it's just me. So guys, I was hoping to keep this going so I could jump in that draft because it only needed 3 people, and now it needs 5. So we kind of went the wrong way. It actually needed 6 at one point. So it kind of went the wrong way. So unless you guys have any other topics you want to jump into, which, by the way, you've been amazing. This has been a ton of fun, and I've missed you guys. It's great jumping in and talking baseball. But like I said, I've done almost 100 drafts now at this point, so I felt like it's probably time. And I had to set this camera thing up because I had an interview today. So I'm like, well, I got the camera and the mic set up, so let's just do it. But it does not look like we're going to be able to jump into another draft. So I'm going to wrap this thing up. But you guys are amazing. DJ, always appreciate you. Jump Shoot, great to see you, man. John, I'll see you in 2 weeks when you come out for spring training. That'll be killer. And anybody else who jumped into the live stream and didn't say hi, thanks for coming in. Hopefully you hit the like button and or tell your friends. I don't know what people do these days. But anyway, hope you guys are well, and I'll keep doing some of these drafts here and there. Obviously, you guys feel free to jump in and watch, ask questions, and I'll just try to talk for an hour and fill up airtime. So anyway, hope you guys are well. I'll catch you later.